Hello, this is Philosophical Rebellion. Today I want to talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict because Gaza is starving to death. There is a man-made famine, and those starving people are being shot at by snipers, by tanks, by fighter jets, by a military attacking a civilian population. Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. That is a well-established fact, supported by the consensus of the world's leading human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, B'Tselem, the United Nations expert Francesca Albanese, and United Nations special committees created to answer the question of whether or not Israel's committing genocide. Every single one of those organizations and many, many more have found Israel guilty of genocidal war crimes over the last 2 years. Prior to October 2023, no organization accused Israel of genocide. But at that point, it was the global human rights organization consensus that Israel was an apartheid state. Before 2023, Amnesty International found Israel guilty of apartheid. So did Human Rights Watch, so did B'Tselem, and so did United Nations experts and committees. The International Court of Justice has also found Israel guilty of a 57-year occupation of Palestinian territory and enacting an apartheid occupation of the Palestinians in that territory. So right now we have the apartheid state of Israel committing genocide against 2 million Palestinians in Gaza, with publicly announced plans that the West Bank is their next target. And Benjamin Netanyahu is a wanted war criminal with an International Criminal Court arrest warrant for his use of starvation and attacks against civilians. Israeli elected officials like Smotrich have said that it is moral to starve Palestinians to death. And other elected leaders of Israel have said that they should crush Gaza to pieces and the people there should be starved. This is after Benjamin Netanyahu said that they should treat the people of Gaza how they learned in the story of Amalek, which says that you should eradicate your enemy, killing them, women and children and livestock, and engaging in a total scorched earth campaign to eradicate their culture and history and entire existence. And in order to do that, they've enacted an extermination campaign against the Palestinians in Gaza. And they announced how they were going to do that back in October 2023, when Israel's defense minister announced a siege to cut off all food, water, medicine, and electricity to the human animals, is what he called them, in Gaza. So Israel announced a siege. Benjamin Netanyahu announced his eradication plans for Gaza. Israeli elected leaders have said that Gaza should be crushed to pieces and starved, and others have said that it is moral to starve Palestinians to death. And right now, Palestinians are starving to death every day in a man-made famine that Israel, through their siege, is imposing on the people of Gaza. And one of the cruelest, sickest jokes they are playing is airdropping moldy, expired food to the Palestinians in Gaza, or through the CIA Mossad joint operation called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. They are putting up a propaganda media front to pretend that they are feeding the people of Gaza, while allowing in a pitiful amount of food to the starving masses of people. And U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee is going on a propaganda tour justifying the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's presence in Gaza and continued operation. So it's very important to remember that Mike Huckabee is a religious fundamentalist committed to the extermination of the Palestinians in Gaza, and he is totally willing to lie in order to do it. He is lying right now. He is lying to Donald Trump. He is lying to the Fox News audience he gets to go and talk to every day. And he is lying to the entire world. So I highly recommend watching what Mike Huckabee says and then fact-checking it with what Anthony Aguilar says. Anthony Aguilar retired at the beginning of this year, 2025, as an American Green Beret Army veteran. He had 12 combat deployments with, I think, over 2 decades of experience in the military. And after retiring from the military, he joined the mercenary group that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation hired to staff their so-called aid sites in Gaza. And Anthony Aguilar served in Gaza at those aid sites and was promoted twice for the work that he was doing, before he ended up resigning to go on a media tour in the United States as a whistleblower, advocating to shut down the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, as it was designed to fail. And that was clear to him after serving there, being in person at each of their 4 aid sites. He advocated for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to be immediately shut down, with the UN RWA, World Food Program, and other actual humanitarian foundations carrying out aid distribution in Gaza. And he isn't the first. Actually, when the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was created, a U.S. Marine veteran was hired to run it. And he resigned before the operation even got going, saying that it was not created to uphold humanitarian principles, and he was not willing to abandon them. So we have a former American Marine and American Army Green Beret on the record saying that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation cannot uphold humanitarian principles. We have Anthony Aguilar advocating for it to be immediately shut down after serving on the sites and witnessing people being shot by the IDF on their way into and out of those aid sites, after witnessing Israeli tanks firing on the starving crowds of innocent people just seeking food, after seeing a small child who had just kissed his hands being so thankful for the scraps he was able to pick out of the ground, being shot and killed by the Israeli Defense Force on his way out of the aid site, after seeing crowds of starving people tear-gassed and pepper-sprayed for no reason, and by filling the cold, lifeless body of a woman who was hit by a stun grenade as a means of crowd control. Some of the best, most morally upstanding people America has are people like Anthony Aguilar. And what he says is completely contradictory to what Mike Huckabee is saying about the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And that is because Mike Huckabee is an evil, religious fundamentalist committed to the extermination of Palestinians. So Mike Huckabee is complicit in Benjamin Netanyahu's use of starvation as a weapon of war. And Mike Huckabee deserves an International Criminal Court arrest warrant alongside Netanyahu. And just like Tucker Carlson said, I hope that Fox News is willing to put Anthony Aguilar up and have his testimony heard by their audience. Because for the last 2 years, Fox News has served as a pro-genocide propaganda outlet, working on behalf of Israel. So their audience is being tricked into supporting genocide they don't even know it's happening, because their media is telling them that Hamas is lying about the starvation, and that Hamas booby-trapped all their own buildings in their own territory, and that they want their own civilians to die. So Fox News has been putting out all these lies to justify what Israel is doing, pretending like the Israelis are these good moral people with extreme respect for human rights, and Palestinians like Hamas are the evil barbarians who just want destruction and loss of life. When in reality, Israel is the apartheid genocidal state starving people to death, literally starving children to death. So, in my mind, you cannot be a good person and support what Israel is doing today. And that is what is so shocking to me about the lessons that we are supposed to have learned from the Nazi Holocaust against Jews during World War II. Because I learned the lesson of never again, meaning never again should any group of people be so dehumanized and vilified that their eradication and extermination is justified and acted on by the people in power. Never again should the world stand idly by while an entire people are being eradicated. And that is exactly what is happening in Gaza right now. Benjamin Netanyahu is the modern-day Adolf Hitler because he is enacting an extermination campaign. And Benjamin Netanyahu's final solution for Palestinians is their starvation, which he is carrying out right now. So never again is happening now, and Benjamin Netanyahu is criminally responsible for doing it. But that's what's so shocking about the conversations I've been having on Substack. Because one of the things that has been pointed out to me is that many Jewish Israelis do not think that never again has anything to do with non-Jews or the crime of extermination. Their sense of never again is never again should Jewish people be the victims of crimes against humanity. They're perfectly fine with Jewish Israelis being the perpetrators of a genocide, and that does not fall under the umbrella of never again to them. So, a lot of times we're using the same words, but we don't mean the same thing. Because when I say never again, I think never again should people like Palestinians be mass murdered by war criminals like Benjamin Netanyahu. Never again should innocent civilians be deliberately attacked in widespread bombings and shootings and starvation campaigns. But it is very easy to get inundated with a bunch of fake news justifying what Israel is doing and lying about the circumstances of the famine in Gaza, the bombing, the causes, and all of that. So I recommend reading organizations like Dropsite News, which have been doing a truly incredible job reporting on the conflict. Ryan Grimm and Jeremy Scahill have been doing some of the best journalism in the entire world on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And I also recommend listening to people like Mossab Abu Toa, a Palestinian winner of the Pulitzer Prize, who regularly documents what's going on in Gaza and shares it on social media for the world to see. And I was also very happy to see Qasim Rashid do a Substack live event with Joe Walsh, a former Republican turned Democrat. I think Joe Walsh represents the types of views that many people in America still hold about Hamas and Israel. And the more we could have that worldview collide with people like Qasim Rashid, actual human rights experts who could add clarification to the topic, the better. I hope to see people like Qasim Rashid on Sam Harris's show and on Bill Maher's show, because they could really learn a lot from him too.